The silver moonlight bathed the rooftops of Karthani as Locke found himself perched on the edge of an ancient bell tower, his legs dangling over the city's glittering expanse. Sabetha emerged from the shadows like a flame-haired spectre, her presence both comforting and unnerving. Their conversation started light, reminiscing about their shared past, but quickly spiraled into deeper waters. Between sips of stolen wine and exchanged glances, they began unraveling years of unspoken feelings. The political game they were playing suddenly felt distant, overshadowed by the weight of their personal history. As Sabetha's fingers brushed against Locke's hand, the air crackled with possibilities and unspoken promises. The following day brought chaos to their carefully laid plans. Jean discovered disturbing information about rival election schemes, but Locke was distracted, his mind clouded by the previous night's encounter. Their usual synchronized teamwork suffered, leading to a near-catastrophic failure during an elaborate deception at the Bondsmagi's archive. Meanwhile, Sabetha executed a brilliant countermove in the election campaign, leaving Locke both impressed and suspicious. The game of hearts and politics became increasingly entangled, with neither knowing where one ended and the other began. A mysterious note arrived, bearing a symbol that made Sabetha's face turn pale. In a candle-lit chamber deep within the city, Patience revealed a fragment of information that shook Locke's understanding of his own past. Sabetha's reaction to this revelation was unexpected, her usual composed demeanor cracking slightly. The election's outcome suddenly seemed trivial compared to the weight of these personal discoveries. Jean watched helplessly as his friends navigated this emotional labyrinth. As midnight approached, Sabetha made a decision that would alter their relationship forever. She reached for an ornate box on her desk, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared to share a secret she'd kept buried for years. But before she could open it, a magical explosion rocked the building's foundation, plunging them into darkness. The cobblestone streets of Karthani glowed with an ethereal purple hue as competing election spells clashed in the night air. Locke Lamora watched from a rooftop as the magical manifestations of campaign promises danced above the city like aurora borealis. The Deep Roots Party's latest move had left their opposition scrambling, and Jean's carefully orchestrated counter-scheme was about to unfold. Through the magical haze, Locke spotted Sabetha's signature red hair disappearing into an alley. She was making her move too, though whether to help or hinder their plans remained uncertain. The air crackled with anticipation as multiple schemes converged toward an explosive conclusion. In the candlelit chamber of the Bondsmagi Council, Patience revealed her true intentions behind the election. The contest had never been about political control. It was an elaborate test, a way to measure something far more significant. As she spoke, the magical wards around the room shifted and changed color, reflecting the growing tension. Locke felt the weight of ancient magic pressing down on him as Jean gripped the hilt of his hatchets. The revelation hit them both like a physical blow. They'd been playing someone else's game all along. Through the window, election spells continued to illuminate the city, but their significance had suddenly changed entirely. The final votes were being tallied as chaos erupted in the city square. Jean's carefully laid trap sprung perfectly, but Sabetha had anticipated it. Multiple layers of deception peeled away like onion skins, revealing a core truth that none had expected. The magical displays above the city reached a crescendo, bathing everything in competing lights of gold and violet. Locke raced through the streets, his heart pounding as he realized the true cost of victory would be higher than anyone had imagined. As he rounded the final corner, he froze. There stood Patience, Sabetha, and a figure he'd hoped never to see again. The election's true purpose was about to be revealed, and nothing would ever be the same. Deep within the candle-lit archives of the Bondsmagi, Patience led Locke through towering shelves of ancient tomes. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment and magical residue. She revealed scrolls that spoke of a powerful mage from centuries past, Lamo Acanthus, who had attempted the unthinkable, transferring his consciousness into a child's body. The descriptions matched Locke's earliest memories perfectly. Each word Patience read aloud seemed to resonate with something deep within Locke's soul, causing the very air around them to shimmer with arcane energy. Jean watched from the shadows, his hand never far from his hatchets, as his friend's face grew increasingly pale with each revelation. In a chamber lined with enchanted mirrors, Sabetha confronted Locke with evidence she'd uncovered. The reflections showed fragments of past lives, echoes of memories that couldn't possibly belong to him. The magical artifacts around them began to react to Locke's presence, glowing with an intense blue light. As Sabetha spoke of ancient texts she'd discovered, each word seemed to pierce through layers of carefully constructed identity. The room grew colder as Locke's world began to unravel, the truth of his existence hanging by a thread. Jean stood guard at the door, torn between protecting his friend and accepting the impossible revelations unfolding before them. The final revelations came at a devastating cost. As Patience completed the ritual meant to unlock Locke's true memories, the chamber erupted in chaos. Ancient wards flared to life, responding to the awakening power within him. Sabetha's eyes widened in horror as she witnessed the transformation beginning in Locke, his usual quick wit replaced by something older, something far more dangerous. Jean moved to intervene, but found himself frozen in place by unseen forces. The very foundations of the Bondsmagi stronghold trembled as long dormant magic stirred. Just as the truth seemed within grasp, a searing white light filled the chamber, and with it came a voice that none of them recognized. Yet Locke knew it better than his own. The cobblestone streets of Karthani glowed with an ethereal purple hue as competing spells from the Bondsmagi filled the air. Locke and Jean found themselves cornered in the narrow alley behind the election hall, with Patience's agents closing in from both sides. The magical barriers they'd so carefully placed were crumbling one by one. "Well," Jean muttered, gripping his hatchets tighter, "I suppose this wasn't quite the finale we had in mind." Locke's fingers danced across his hidden lockpicks as he calculated their odds. Through the magical haze, they could see Sabetha's signature red hair disappearing over a rooftop. She was making her move on the real target while they played decoy. The ancient chamber beneath the Bondsmagi archives held secrets that made Locke's blood run cold. As Patience unveiled the final pieces of the puzzle, the very foundations of his identity began to crack. The mirrors lining the walls reflected not just his face, but echoes of who he might have been, each reflection showing a different version of truth. "You see now, don't you?" Patience's voice carried both triumph and pity, why she could never truly stay. Jean stood silent, watching his friend's world unravel with each revelation. The magical artifacts scattered around the room began to pulse with an intense light, responding to Locke's growing emotional turmoil. Dawn broke over Karthani as Sabetha stood at the city gates, her travel pack slung over one shoulder. The election's true purpose had been revealed, a mere backdrop for a centuries-old game of the Bondsmagi. Locke approached her, his steps heavy with the weight of new truths. "You could stay," he said, though they both knew it was futile. The morning mist swirled with remnants of magic from the night's events, creating dancing patterns between them. Jean watched from a distance as Sabetha reached out, her fingers almost touching Locke's cheek before pulling back. She whispered something that made Locke's eyes widen, then turned and walked away, leaving behind a small playing card that burst into blue flames as it hit the ground. The mystery she'd planted would haunt them far longer than any scheme they'd ever played.
Thank you for venturing into this realm with me. If you crave more enchanted worlds, mythical battles, and secrets whispered from ancient pages, join the Guild of Storybound Explorers. Subscribe now and ring the bell to unlock every new quest the moment it drops. The next chapter awaits. Will you answer the call?